Hello, 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 once again, all my fellow patriots and you filthy leftist stalkers out there. You're listening to Angela's Soapbox. I'm Angela Box. So we've got the Soapbox and we've got the Saturday show, which is the Angela Box show. I know it's a little confusing, but try and keep up. Okay. So much going on this week. Yesterday, I taped the Saturday show, and I don't really want to do a total rehash of that in case you happen to listen to both. But I do want to kind of touch on a couple of things that I talked about yesterday, and we'll get to it. Like, there's a lot of connections now with the P. Diddy stuff and Epstein and this idea of how to control certain populations with blackmail, compromise, etc. And it's a much bigger rabbit hole than I think people realize. And it has to do with, as someone who's a former teacher and I worked in the inner city, like I worked in the hood. Those of you who kind of know my background know that. Like, one of the things that I wanted to do as a teacher is to help little black and brown kids who were basically shunted to the side, and this idea of the playground to prison pipeline, which is 100% Democrat created. And, I got so much pushback when I would say things like that. Or I've got so much pushback when I would say, instead of like staying on the path that your parents are on, let's make different choices so you can have a better life. And I think the whole P. Diddy Epstein stuff, the blackmailing, the way that P. Diddy, I think Sean Combs has been used to basically keep black people in line, because they're basically spewing out just a bunch of garbage music, a bunch of garbage messaging, and it's purposeful. The hoes and the pimps and the thugs and being on welfare and this cycle of dependency that so many black people are in is not by accident. It's to keep them controlled and to keep them voting for Democrats. Like, that's the bottom line. And when we break down P. Diddy or Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell or anybody else that is in the intelligence community, that if you understand the bigger picture, like that the intelligence community exists to basically message what they want to message and to keep certain people in line. And, years ago, there was this conspiracy theory. I mean, it's still out there. And it's like, it seems more appropriate now than ever, especially with the Sean Combs stuff coming out. The conspiracy theory that the CIA basically planted crack in the black community or introduced crack cocaine into the black community to destroy it. And years ago, when I didn't really understand the level of evil that the Uniparty represented, and it is the Uniparty, and it's like, it's not Republicans and Democrats, it's good versus evil. I mean, like, that's it. And when you understand that, everything starts to become a little clearer, and you get shaken out of the matrix. And once you take the red pill, you really can't go back to sleep. So this idea that crack cocaine was introduced into the black community, this idea that Democrats are the black people's savior. Malcolm X famously said, I'm paraphrasing here, but famously said, the worst enemy the black community has is a white liberal. Because it's true. Like, if you look back during segregation, during the Jim Crow South, during the time where black people these were actual injustices done to the black community during the time of lynching and KKK and all those things at its height, which of course were run by Democrats. These are all Democrat organizations, all Democrat stuff that they did to black people, segregated them, etc. When you look back, though, at that time, you saw a level of self-respect in the black community. They wanted to bring themselves up. They wanted to make themselves successful. There were 2-parent homes. Parents were married. There were the black schools that the kids would go to. They were learning life skills and they were being educated. Today, the garbage schools that we have, which are 100% run by Democrats. Again, playground to prison pipeline created by Democrats. And it's funny because I was on Isaiah's show this week with State Rep Jolanda Jones. Jolanda and I, we go back a ways. She's a real interesting character. I don't dislike her personally. Like, I think she's funny, and I think she's very scrappy, and I respect that about her. She's not one to just sit back and be complacent. She's made something of herself, and whether you agree with her politics or not, you can't take that away from her. And I was on with her and another gentleman who is a teacher in, I believe, HISD, which is where I used to work too. And the dots that I think they're starting to connect, I don't think they're ready to take the leap yet to understand that this has been purposeful and it's been done by Democrats in order to keep Black people on Democrat plantation. But, they were talking about, the subject we were talking about is the school shooting epidemic, and that they're evidently the FBI, which, take it with a grain of salt, obviously, with this FBI, the corrupt FBI that it has become. But the FBI is saying that there's been a lot of hoax school shooting calls in Houston. And I made the point that, this is the group of kids coming up now, and the gentleman that is a teacher in middle school, which hats off, because middle school sucks. Like, it's bad. It's real bad. Like, HISD is a disaster, an absolute unmitigated disaster, just like every other school district is at this point. Like, unless you're in a very affluent area, and I hate to say it, but it's, if you have a lower minority population, it's going to be a better school. Like, that's not really changed since public education has started. But again, I think when Democrats really started getting control of the Black community is when things started to go really south in public schools. Anyway, he said, these parents, they roll up on the drive line, like to pick their kids up from school, and the speakers are thumping, and you can smell weed coming from the car, and they cuss at their kids. And Jolanda and him both, as Black people, were like, the discipline's out of control, the behavior's out of control. Parents got to get it together. And it's not just about kids raising kids. It's about this cycle that a lot of Black people, unfortunately, are in, where it's thug culture and rap culture and hoe culture and welfare culture and, weed culture. And again, cussing in front of your kids. I remember as a kid, listen, I cuss like a sailor. Anyone who knows anything about me knows that. But when I was a child, whenever I would hear an adult cuss, it would make me feel very uncomfortable. And I think that kids have now been so desensitized to it that it's normal. And listen, it's not normal to curse in front of kids or to cuss out a child or to beat a child. Discipline, sure. Spanking, sure. But beating a kid, that's not normal. Cussing out a child, smoking weed in front of a child is not normal. And, the thing with the P. Diddy connection with this is if you understand that Sean Combs was the Epstein of the hip hop community, meaning that, and Ian Carroll brilliantly brought this up this week on the Alex Jones show, which, side note, man, if Alex Jones goes off the air, that is going to be such a tragedy for the truth. And I hope that he's got some people that are going to be able to keep him afloat, some super rich people that can just be like, you know what, we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure Alex Jones's voice is still heard. But anyway, Ian Carroll, who's done a lot of deep dive rabbit holes on this stuff, he said, Epstein was able to infiltrate politicians and royalty and the sports community and entertainment. But the Black community was not easily as infiltrated. So if you understand, or if you start wrapping your brain around this idea that P. Diddy, the whole point of P. Diddy's freak off parties and the whole point of this stuff that people like 50 Cent has been talking about for many, many years. Cat Williams is another one. He's like, I don't F with P. Daddy's parties, or Puff Daddy's parties, because That stuff's pure evil. Like, that's what Epstein is doing. Like, it's clearly meant to get blackmail material. And so once these people are blackmailed, and again, if Diddy is an asset of the intelligence clans, then what they can do is they can start putting in messaging into the culture that is destructive to the Black community, and it's destructive to the culture at large. And I think as a culture, that is what we've got to start wrapping our brains around. And why do they want to do this? To control people, to put out evil messages, take God out of schools. And I brought that up on the show. So when you take God out of the public square, when you take Christianity out of the public square, then what replaces it is this nihilism, is this demonic, is this really anti-human stuff that is destructive. If we got Christianity put back into schools, so much of this would end, ladies and gentlemen. So much of this would end and be stopped in its tracks. So we're going to pick this up when we get back. You are listening to Angela's Soapbox. I will be right back. Welcome back to Angela's Soapbox. Okay, I don't want to spend the entire show on this, but I think it's important to kind of really start connecting dots. So, years ago when they would say, the conspiracy theory of crack being introduced into the Black community in order to destroy it, it's like, I think they did that shit. Like, considering what we know now with, obviously COVID and Epstein and the Uniparty and how they have certain people under their control in order to control them, in order to change the culture and change this country and to basically destroy it from within. That's what communism 101 is. I think it's like, yeah, this probably happened. Now, that's something that we will continue talking about. Evidently, 50 Cent. I thought this was. I said this on my other show. I wasn't sure if this was real, if it's just an internet rumor. But evidently, Netflix is paying 50 Cent $300 million for his Puff Daddy documentary. Now, Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent, has been talking about this for a long time. Curtis Jackson, by the way, if you didn't know, 50 Cent is totally MAGA. All right. It is amazing, isn't it? Like, Janet Jackson came out this week and she's like, well, Kamala Harris really isn't Black. And everyone came for her. And she's like, I'm not apologizing. Like, she's not really Black. Like, calm down. But, the scales falling from people's eyes, especially in the Black community, is something that they cannot have. And so that is why the Puff Daddy stuff is so interesting, that he actually got charged with something. Like, that's the thing that's wild to me. So that tells you that they're losing their control. And so we're gonna see as the election gets closer and as Trump hopefully wins and he doesn't get assassinated. I mean, this is God, right? And we all know that God wins, and we all say, thy will be done, and it's up to God and it's God's timing. But I do think God is using Donald Trump in order to usher in a new age of enlightenment and exposure and understanding. But, be that as it may, we got to keep them safe. They're doing so much, but the fact that Puff Daddy is charged and it wasn't continued to be swept under the rug, and people like 50 Cent who've been screaming about this for years and years and years, the fact that Netflix is actually going to produce this documentary, like, that tells me that scales are being removed here. So that is going to be super interesting to continue to watch. Now, I didn't give the serial killing plastic straw yet, so this, it doesn't pain me, but it's kind of like, all right, Mike Johnson, what do they have on you? Because once again, one of our people completely caved. Let's discuss it, shall we? Now, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, threatened everybody with a good time the other day, or a couple weeks ago, and met with Trump. And Trump was like, listen, you better attach the SAVE Act to this continuing resolution. Like, to not shut down the government. You need to put Democrats on record to show that they're all going to vote against this, which they all have. But Mike Johnson was going to actually have some balls and attach it to the continuing resolution, which basically says if you don't want to vote for the SAVE Act, if you don't basically want to say that you need to have a photo ID in order to vote, you need to be an American citizen in order to vote. And here's what HR2 is basically the SAVE Act, okay? The SAVE Act, let me read this here, just a few of the things that, again, Mike Johnson promised Trump would be in the CR. And the CR would basically fund the government until December 15th. And, spoiler alert, he caved. So my question is, what does the deep state have on Mike Johnson? Like, what is it? Is it an affair? Is it some nefarious dealings? Like, I don't know. I have no idea. You got me. Like, tell me what you think in the comments here, because they obviously have something on Mike Johnson. Now, HR2, which was the actual bill that was passed by the House, that is sitting on Chuck Schumer's desk, that they will not bring up for a vote because it actually does something to stop illegal immigration. Let's discuss this here. Catch and release. It ends catch and release by mandating the detention, removal, or return of illegal aliens instead of releasing them. Now, the stupid bill that James Langford, that ginger loser, the guy from Oklahoma, that hopefully is going to lose his race in November. I mean, I don't think he. Well, I'm speaking without having all the information. I don't think Langford is up for re-election this time. But the next time he is, I guarantee you, he's going to get a primary challenger. Or he'll just say, I've decided not to run, because his internal polling will be like, yeah, nobody wants you. Nobody wants a turncoat like you. James Langford, like a lot of ginger men, unfortunately, sorry gingers out there, I'm just telling the truth here. I mean, I've never met a cool, well, I don't want to say, Bobby Flay, he's pretty cool. Like, he's a ginger, he's pretty lit, whatever. But, like, most ginger men are kind of the Faye beta variety. And I don't think James Langford is any exception. I think they have a lot of insecurities or whatever. That's a whole other psychological rabbit hole. But James Langford thought he was going to buddy up with Senate Republican leadership and basically attach his name to this ridiculous border bill that Kamala Harris is trying to pretend would actually secure the border and would be great. And these are the things she's going to do when she's president, blah, blah, blah. It's like, heifer, you could have done it for the last 3.5 years. And now all of a sudden, a side note, she's going to the border when she didn't do it for 3.5 years. But anyway, catch and release, the stupid Senate bill that they wanted, that basically the Republicans in the House were like, this is a no-go. Like, this isn't going to happen. Mike Johnson could have attached the SAVE Act and HR2, which is basically the SAVE Act, to the continuing resolution, and he did not. He could have forced the Democrats to actually have to take a stand and vote against the SAVE Act, which would basically put them on record to say that, yeah, we want illegal aliens to vote. Like, we're totally down for that. So the ridiculous James Langford bill would not end catch and release. It actually codifies the release of aliens into faulty, quote, alternatives to detention. What is that? What is that? That's word salad for we're going to release the illegal aliens into America. Let's see what else. The HR2, which again was passed by the House, sitting on Chuck Schumer's desk, fully ends the mass release of migrants while giving DHS additional authority to turn away migrants to maintain operation control no matter what. And then the Senate Mayorkas Board of Security deal codifies the mass release of migrants, illegals, while requiring DHS to turn away only if 5,000 a day or more cross, which exempts children, which paves the way for a surge of unaccompanied minors. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, have lost now about 325,000 children. How do you lose 325,000 children? It reminds me a lot of what happened with the Ukraine children, 80,000 of them that Spain went and collected, and then they lost 80,000 of them. And they're like, we don't know where they are. Whoops. And there's an undercover investigation. I don't know who put it out. Maybe it was O'Keefe's group. No, I'm sorry. It was Muckraker. Muckraker put this video out. And basically, it was an undercover thing, an undercover video. The border security person that they were talking to was like, yeah, basically, this is Sound of Freedom. And if for those of you who don't know, Sound of Freedom is the fantastic movie that I cannot believe Bezos actually allowed to stream on Amazon, but he did. So you can go watch it. I think it's still on there. That talked about human trafficking, child trafficking. It is horrific. Okay. And this guy is like, basically, yeah, that's what's going on. So they lost 325,000 kids. So they're basically saying, 5,000 people a day can come in, exempts children, which means whatever unaccompanied minors come over the border, we're going to put them with, quote, sponsors, even though they're not their parents, and then we're going to lose track of them. All right, let's continue. Border wall mandates construction of a border wall. The Senate Majority Bill, sponsored by the Ginger, James Langford, does not mandate the construction of the wall. Parole prevents DHS from mass paroling and releasing migrants into the U.S. The other one effectively reaffirms Biden's parole abuses while trying to make it more orderly. All right. It goes on and on and on. There's several more things in here that basically Mike Johnson just turned over and bent over and took it up the keister for the open borders crowd and the Uniparty, and would not attach the SAVE Act to the CR. I'm sure that Donald Trump has had a few choice words for Mike Johnson now that he bent over and took it up the ass with no lube for these people. But again, it begs the question, what does the deep state have on Mike Johnson? And Mike Johnson's like, oh, it would be a tragic, what did he say? It would be I can't remember what he said, but basically it was like, it would be a horrible thing. It would be a dereliction, that's what he said, dereliction of duty to shut down the government over the SAVE Act. It's like, you effing suck, Mike Johnson. So I cannot wait. Let's hope. Again, we have to make this November election too big to rig. That's what we got here, guys, because they're gonna steal it if they can. We have to make it so that their shutdown mechanisms are not gonna. It's not gonna pass the smell test this time. They're not gonna be able to drop in enough ballots, fake ballots into the system this time for the American people to be like, well, what is happening here? Because people are a lot more awake than they are 4 years ago. That's why I think Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, is actually still alive right now. I mean, we'll see how long he lasts, but that's why I think he's alive right now, because people are way, way more tuned into this stuff than they were 4 years ago. All right, we'll continue when we get back. You're listening to Angela's Soapbox. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Angela's Soapbox. All right, let's continue on this open border crap, because this is just seriously such a slap in the face to the American people. Like, we're so over it. The Haitian stuff, the eating the pet stuff, they keep trying to tell us that that's fake, and it's not. And now there's evidently a small town in Maine, which, I don't know, these things might be correlated or not. I don't know, I'm not sure. We know that Haitians practice voodoo. Like, people that know Haiti are like, yeah, they practice voodoo and they sacrifice pets and then they have to eat them. Like, that's a thing. So this small town in Maine that evidently has had a bunch of Haitians resettled there because of an asylum program, all of a sudden a bunch of pets have gone missing. There's, a few dozen police calls saying, yeah, all the pets are going missing. Like, that's weird. Anyway, but that's just fake news, of course. Okay, so there's something else that came out about this. So former Chief Border Patrol agent Aaron Heitke was ordered by Biden-Harris to cover up for the disaster at the border. This is from End Wokeness, and I'm just reading from a quick X post here because there's a lot more to get to. But basically, you start to understand why this is happening. Again, this is communism. This is to change the American culture irreparably, to change the demographics of America. in so much as that there's no unity, that there's no shared culture or heritage or language, basically destroy the United States. Like, that's what's going on here. And it's been a 100-year thing since communism reared its ugly head in the USSR. Let's see. So data has been hidden on terror encounters. So basically, all these terrorists that are now flooding the border on purpose, that are led into this country by Kamala Harris and the sack of potatoes Joe Biden, who by the way, this week went on The View. Man, I cannot wait. I'm manifesting this. I cannot wait to be on The View for 1 week. And I've said this before. I'm going to be like, bitches, I know I'm not going to be here long, but while I am, I'm going to make your lives a living hell. Can't wait for that day. Hopefully it will happen. Manifesting. But anyway, the View this week had Joe Biden on. They brought him out of, retirement. He was mumbling through his last UN speech, which was just an embarrassment. Like, totally embarrassing, whatever. He's like completely shivved Kamala Harris. Like, basically gave her like all the responsibility for all the crap that has been done in this country. He's like, yeah. She's like, I delegated border stuff to her and economy stuff to her, and I delegated everything. Like, she was my right-hand gal. Anyway, let's continue on this. So there's terrorists flooding the border. Kamala Harris pretends that that's not happening. Joe Biden pretends that's not happening. But this Border Patrol chief is like, yeah, these are what these people are doing. They're letting these people into the country. It's a matter of time before there's an Islamic terror attack. Like, a matter of time. $150,000 flights. So they're taking all the illegals that are coming in on the border, and before Greg Abbott can ship them to blue cities and blue states, they're basically taking them and flying them into red states and red communities, meaning Republican communities, to try and change those communities, overwhelm their communities, just like what's happening in Liberty County in Texas with this insane Colony Ridge thing, which, weirdly enough, the guy who runs it, a guy named Trey Harris, is one of Greg Abbott's biggest supporters. So make that make sense. I can't figure Greg Abbott out, like, at all. Like, is he just a political whore? Or short answer, probably yes. Anyway, the point is, completely destroying Liberty County, destroying the schools there, flooding the zone with illegal aliens. That's what they want to do. Zero resources to track fentanyl. Then we've got this, a congressional report. Over 85% of migrants, illegals, arriving at the southern border have been released in the United States as Biden-Harris /detention space. So this heifer, Kamala Harris, running around pretending that she's going to be tough on the border. It's like, again, Joe Biden just said you had control of the border. He delegated it to you. So why didn't you do it? Like, that's what people are starting to ask. Now, by the way, Kamala Harris, who is a literal political whore, has massive imposter syndrome. It's funny that everyone's now talking about how she's an imposter. And I'm like, yeah, I already said it. Like, I said it weeks ago. Her and Meghan Markle are two sides of the same coin. Both imposters, both malignant narcissists. And on the Meghan Markle front, I really love hate watching stuff about Meghan Markle. It is so much schadenfreude going on because Hollywood Reporter had this just brutal takedown of her. Like, talking about what an absolute see you next Tuesday she is. She's a dictator in high heels. They don't do anything. They're like just useless, basically. They're, again, imposters. All Meghan Markle does is mouth the latest current thing and tries to sound smart and like, oh, I'm just above it all. And, I'm so concerned about women and minorities and blah, 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 just says nothing. Absolutely nothing. And is evidently terrible to work for. And she's a terrible human being. I mean, just like Kamala Harris. It's not a coincidence that they're both basically the same. When you're an imposter, when you know you don't really belong there, when you know you really can't hack the job, you're awful to work for, you're mean, you're petty, you have massive staff turnover, and both of them have those things. But anyway, so Kamala Harris is now, I guess, going to be sitting down with Stephanie Ruhle, who is a fellow raspy-voiced lady. She's cute. I can't hate on her. She's not droopy dog Dana Bash. That, ugh. she's hard to look at. But Stephanie Rule, she's cute. I'll hand her that. I kind of like her raspy voice, but she's about as big of a leftist hack as you can find. I mean, she's on MSNBC. Like, I wish, in my heart of hearts, like, I really want her to sit down with Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. Like, that would be so funny to watch them, like, crawl up her asshole. Anyway, but she's going to sit down with Stephanie Rule, and her daddy, her closeted jazz hands, Tim Walz, isn't going to be sitting down with her, but it's going to be a softball interview, and it's not going to be live, and I'm sure they're going to edit the hell out of it and whatever. But anyway, so that's going to be funny to watch. And next week, the vice president debate is scheduled. So by the time I tape next week, we will either know if the vice presidential debate has happened or not. Now, the difference, I think, with J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, there's a couple of differences. Donald Trump is not a politician. Donald Trump is a regular guy. He speaks from the hip. He's not word salady. He's not studied. He's not, like him or like this about him or don't like this about him. Like, he doesn't really do prep. And so, unfortunately, if you don't do prep with debating, you're not going to be as sharp as you would and be able to, like, have certain things ready to go as well as if you did prep, or if you were maybe a lawyer like J.D. Vance is. J.D. Vance, his story, his origin story is amazing. They try and take a dump on it, but good luck with that. It's so inspirational. And J.D. Vance obviously came from nothing, went to the Marines, went to Ohio State, and then got, I think a full ride to Yale Law School, which is the best law school in the country. Like it or hate it, it is what it is. Super hard to get into. Like, fewer than, I think, 1% of applicants actually get in to Yale Law School. But anyway, so J.D. Vance is going to be debating Tim Walz. And J.D. Vance, if they allow this to go forward, is absolutely going to destroy Tim Walz. It's not even going to be cute, guys. And so I'll be going on TV to break down the debate, just like we did with the Trump-Harris debate. And I don't think they're going to have as good of a night. Let's put it that way. Now, obviously, Kamala Harris got the questions in advance. She may have had an earpiece. That story has gone nowhere, which tells you it probably 100% is real. Like the sworn affidavit from the ABC whistleblower. Have you heard anything about this on the media? Is David Muir having to answer actual questions? Is Lizzie Davis or the head of ABC News, Dana Walden, who's Kamala Harris's good buddy, are any of them having to actually answer questions about this? No, of course not. Because it's real. They did it. All right. So look, we know they're going to do whatever's humanly possible to help out Tim Walz. But J.D. Vance is not going to come to play. All right. He's going to eviscerate that beta cuck, Tim Walz. It's going to be really something to watch. All right. When we get back, I want to talk about how the left is just clutching all their pearls about the idea of the Department of Education getting shut down and why this is like the best idea ever. So one more segment. You're listening to Angela's Soapbox. I'll be right back. Of Angela's Soapbox. So this is really funny to me as a former teacher. Donald Trump this week went to a rally. I don't know where he was, but it has just set these little leftists' hair on fire. He said that we're going to be closing the Department of Education and sending it back to the states. And it's like, let me slow clap. Where do I sign up for this? So as a former teacher, and I said this at the top of the show, and I will continue to talk about this because I believe it is so crucial to understand the Democrats' playbook. And the Democrats must have the minority communities in check, or they don't win elections, all right? Because more and more white people are breaking for Trump. More and more males are breaking for Trump. Legal immigrants are breaking for Trump. Hispanics are breaking for Trump. Black males are breaking for Trump. So they know that they've got to have the public school system under their control. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to churn out any brainwashed idiots. So this little twink, Harry Sisson, if you're not on X, you don't know who this kid is. Trust me, he's a bought and paid for DNC hack. He literally gets paid by them just like the Krasensteins do, just like so many other of these people, just like Kamala Harris's people have to be bussed in to go to her stupid rallies. And it's just so funny to me because they act like that they're like, oh my God, this is huge. Look at the line of people coming to see Kamala Harris. She's so inspirational. It's like you literally bus people in from other cities and states. Like, that's been proven. And you also put ads on Craigslist asking if anyone wants to get paid to go to a rally. Spare me. I mean, I'm sure he's $540 billion and she can pay for it, but like, this isn't organic by any stretch. Anyway, so Harry Sisson, who's a little twink, 21-year-old little twink. I don't know if he's gay or not. He looks like he takes it up the A. Anyway, he said, WTF, Donald Trump just said he wants to get rid of the Department of Education. This is also a major policy proposal included in Project 2025, exclamation mark. Trump wants to make our education system worse. Share this everywhere. It's like, first of all, no, he doesn't. Why would he want to destroy the America that he literally has put everything on the line for to make better? He didn't take a salary. He's not doing this out of grandiosity or ego. He's doing it because he knows he's like the only one that can save this country. Like, that's not beholden to anybody that can afford to run, use his own money. He's the only one who can't be bought and paid for. I mean, not the only one. I mean, Elon's one of them, but he can't be president. He's not a naturalized American citizen. He's born in South Africa. But Elon, of course, has said, hey, I'll do whatever you need me to do, Trump. Or you want to start doing a Javier Milei and cut some ridiculous government agencies? Like, I'm your guy. Anyway, because he obviously, when he took over Twitter, he cut like 80% of the workforce. So he's like, I can do this. Put me in, coach. Anyway, so Harry Sisson is having a meltdown. And so all of them are having meltdowns over this because if they don't have control of public education, if it goes back to the states, if school choice is enacted where the money goes with the child, which is what Trump has said that he wants, what do you think black and brown parents that actually want their kids out of these awful government schools are going to do? They're going to move them to other educational facilities, or they're going to homeschool or whatever. And, you know, this is such a cultural thing that Democrats are clinging on to. This, again, purposeful destruction of the black community, which if you go to the top of the show again, Puff Daddy, you know, trying to ruin the black culture with the music and the thug culture and the gang culture and all that stuff, which, again, if you look back 100 years, the black community wasn't like this. Two parent homes, dad worked, mom would work or stay home with the children. They like to hearken back, and I don't want to completely make the show all about this, but I think it's important to understand how many dots are connecting here with the exposure of Sean Combs. When you look back at they like to talk about the Tulsa race riots or the Tulsa burning of 1919. And they like to go back and say, oh, this is a horrible thing. Yeah, it was a horrible, horrible thing. You know what it was? Tulsa, Oklahoma, my home state, they had basically Black Wall Street. And it was a group of, it was a black community that was incredibly functioning, successful, productive. And some evil racist went and burnt it down and destroyed it. And what has basically the Democrat Party done to the black community since the 1960s? That's what they've done to them. It's not, obviously there were problems and everything like that, but it wasn't to the level that we're seeing today. So obviously getting rid of public education that they're lying to everyone about is like not what's happening here. What it would do, it would send education back to the states, and then there would be competition. There would be free market principles applied to these government schools and to these teachers unions. And we need to get back to normal behavior standards, basics, make sure these kids have discipline in their lives. If the parents don't want to get on board with that, well, tough, okay? Because this is what needs to happen. So it's going to be a real divide when you see Democrat-run schools versus Republican-run schools. It's going to be a huge, huge thing. It really is. Education really is the civil rights issue of our time. And they must keep black people on the Democrat plantation by all means necessary, because if just half the black people, let's put it this way, 8%, give or take, vote for Republicans every election since, like, I don't know, 1980. I don't know, but it's not many. If we even get double that, if 16% of the black community goes for Trump this time, and some of the polls have him at 30% this time around, it's game over for Democrats. Like, they're going to have to shut everything down for weeks in order to manufacture enough ballots to pull this off. And they're not going to be able to do that. It's just not going to fly. But anyway, let's get to some other stuff, because I love that they think that we're stupid and that we don't understand that they're basically swapping out the black community now for illegal aliens. And they, don't want the SAVE Act. They don't want people to produce photo ID to vote, blah, 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 like all the things that we know that they're doing. And in Oregon, listen to this, they said it wasn't happening. Oregon DMV mistakenly registered more than 1,200 non-citizens to vote. Complete audit finds. Do you think there's more than that? Of course there are. Now, last week, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, designated a Venezuelan gang trained to Aragua as a foreign terrorist organization, which is great. I think Trump, when he comes in, he's going to, first of all, it's going to be the most massive deportation that we've ever seen in the American history. And we're going to be classifying drug cartels, gangs as terrorist organizations. And when they say they are terrorist organizations, guess what? You can basically rain hellfire on these people. So that's going to be great. What else do I want to get to in the few seconds we have left? Oh, here's something funny. There's now been 400 economists who are coming forward and endorsing Kamala Harris. And it's like, oh, so another deep state group of losers are basically saying, yeah, Kamala Harris, who the borders are, the lady who can't string two sentences together, doesn't really have an economic policy except to babble out some communist word salad crap. Like, oh, okay, we should go for this lady. It's funny because earlier this week she got the coveted endorsement of the IRS union. And it's like, okay, so basically Hollywood, the IRS, illegal aliens, teachers unions, all the deep state actors, disgusting rhino Republicans like Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, etc. They're all endorsing Kamala Harris. It's like, let me do the opposite, ladies and gentlemen, because this woman is she's not smart. She's an imposter. She's a pawn. She's easily controlled. But the thing is that they put these people in that have massive, massive egos. And again, think they are someone that they are not, even though deep down they know that they're not, but they're easily controlled, ladies and gentlemen. All right, that's my time, unfortunately. Please go subscribe to all my stuff on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And when in doubt, go to angelasoapbox.com because I put everything up on there, videos, podcasts, etc. Until next time, everybody, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Keep kicking ass and taking names. Peace!